With Wicked the Movie Part 1 now in theaters, as in you can go see it now, in fact, go see it after this video, there are now a couple of different adaptational forays into the Wizard of Oz universe. There's Wizard of Oz the book, Wizard of Oz the movie, Wicked the book, Wicked the musical, and now Wicked the movie Part 1. And that's not even mentioning all the other books in the Wicked book series, any other Oz books or games or side projects, the whole Oz world out there. But today, I want to talk about specifically the different Wicked adaptational projects, namely the book, the musical, and now the movie. And take a look at, what's in a Wicked ending, as none of those three projects, despite telling very similar stories of the life of Elphaba the Wicked Witch, none of them have really the same ending, or even end in the same place in the story. And I want to see, why is that? Why make those choices? And how do those choices suit each adaptation the best? Or don't, maybe. Who's to say? But if you're watching this and thinking, hey, I don't want any spoilers for the movie, fear not, because before you go, I have some wicked fun facts to get you in the wickedest. I have some wicked fun facts to get you in the wicked headspace for the movie. But all that said, I'm Jeremiah, and welcome back to Vinyl Thoughts.
Welcome to Vinyl Thoughts Podcast, brought to you by CrossfaderLA.com. Blending culture and creativity.
So, our first wicked fun fact already takes us to a bit of a Hollywood edge to things, as before it was even a musical or movie, author Gregory Maguire had envisioned the big screen for his works. As he was writing, he envisioned different characters as different big-name Hollywood actors to help envision the story, envisioning, for instance, Elphaba as actress Katie Lang and Fiyero as Antonio Banderas. He even thought that if he pulled off the story well enough, that Hollywood would come calling and want to option it for the big screen. A fact which he was definitely correct about, as Demi Moore and Universal Studios production companies both optioned the film rights for the story. Unfortunately, Wicked, the book, as we'll get into, is a dense piece of work, and they both weren't really sure that a screenplay that they were working on could really bring those adaptational changes to the stage while also focusing on the relationship between Elphaba and Galinda until a couple of composers suggested to them that, hey, listen, a musical, that'll let you really take these relationships and put them to sound, to singing, and really get to the heart of those emotional depths. And we know for a fact, based on how successful the musical is, they were right. So it looks like they're always kind of Hollywood dreams for Wicked after all. But speaking of Wicked the musical, did you know that it is in fact one of the most, if not the most expensive Broadway production in history, at a cost coming in at around, $14 million. So it cost a pretty penny. Now, this said, if you've ever seen Wicked the musical in all its glory, like on Broadway and the West End, it's not hard to imagine why that's the case. The production staff for the sets, the costuming, everything is top of the line. The Oz sets, the Munchkin sets, the bubble, all the flying, it's a production of a lot of high quality and a lot of different moving parts to get everything looking good. So it's no surprise that it ended up being so expensive, and it's money well spent. It's a great show. It's in fact the 5th longest running show on the West End right now. So I'd say that's a money well invested. After that, we move on to the movie. Now, have you seen the actress Cynthia Erivo and seen her in the trailers and stuff? You might notice that she has green ears. But what you might not know is that those green ears are not actually hers. In fact, they made prosthetics for her ears to go over her actual ears for the entire shoot. Why? Well, Cynthia has piercings, has earrings, has a ton of them up and down her ears, and she didn't feel comfortable removing them for the shoot. So, costume production went ahead and made those prosthetics to go over her ears so that they wouldn't show up in film, and there would be no need to have them all removed, which I can only imagine would be a long, lengthy, and just not very fun process. Speaking of the movie, they planted, and I just want to pause here because I don't know about many movies these days that don't do sets in CGI or outsource them to other different locations, which this movie also did in some parts, but they also, for a lot of the Munchkin scenes, planted something like 9 million tulips, like real actual tulips, to get the full scope of what the Munchkin land is supposed to be. Now, I gotta say, I'm not one for movie fun facts, but when I first heard this was when I first got really excited about what Wicked was going to be doing. Because that level of attention to detail and like commitment to a set really speaks highly of the creative team commitment to telling a good story with Wicked here, and not just kind of slapping a name on it and calling it a day. So, big props to that one. I can't wait to see it all in motion on the big screen. And if you yourself are going to see Wicked on the big screen, A, it's gonna be great, I hope, fingers crossed, but B, be prepared, because it clocks in at a pretty substantial 2 hours and 40 minutes long. So you're gonna be there for a while. Just kind of, yeah, but like, I would say sit back, relax, get the songs to really wash over you. Hi, this is Jeremiah from the future. After just having seen Wicked, the movie, the musical, just want to quick pop in and say, one, absolutely go fucking see it. Greatest movie musical I've maybe seen on film ever. I have a whole review recorded for later, but to summarize here, it's great. My new favorite movie musical, potentially of all time, beating out Chicago, Rent, definitely beating out Cats. Fuck Cats. And it's just good. And you're gonna feel those 2 hours and 40 minutes really just breeze by you. I left that theater wishing for more time, if you can believe it. So that's my quick review of that, and now back to the video. 2 hours and 40 minutes is a long time to tell any story. In fact, that is 10 minutes longer than the actual Broadway musical, which, again, mind you, the movie is part 1 of 2. It's only covering half of the material the musical is. So, this is kind of what got me thinking about the different adaptational choices that each team is making, and here is my official warning for spoilers, okay? If you don't want to know anything about the plot of Wicked, or you want to experience it all blind, you haven't seen the musical, you haven't read the book, stop this video right now. I mean, leave a like and comment and all that good shit, but also, like, go and watch it, go have fun. Come back, comment in the comments if you know how it was, but like, yeah. From here on out, we talking about the endings and stuff, so you might not want to be here for that, alright? I'll wait. I'm not chilling. I'll read a book or some shit, I don't know. Is it gone? Should I get the fuck out of here? Great, so, let's talk about that. 2 adds a substantial amount of time. And not only that, because we know it's part 1 of 2, we can reasonably know where the movie's gonna end. Approximately, so it follows basically the movies. If the movie follows the musical as part 1 and part 2, we can surmise the movie's going to end right at the defying gravity number, right, where Elphaba first comes to the conclusion and comes to the conviction that she cannot continue to stay complicit with the powers that be, and that she must work against them to enact change in her society, which she sees as corrupt, because it is. And that's where Act 1 ends, and it's where this movie is going to end. I'm from the future, can confirm it did end there. Go figure. So that's much different from the musical, which, because it does not have, a sequel, right? The musical ends, with Elphaba and Fiyero escaping into somewhere else, faking their deaths, and Glinda kind of picking up the pieces, and the idea being that she will lead Munchkinland and Oz into a better, more just society. And then I think even from the books, where in the books, the ending is that Elphaba does not fake her death. She is just dead. She is deceased, gone, a puddle of water on the ground. And the Oz himself is left to realize, oh shit, that was my daughter. I'm gonna skip town. And notably, Oz is in political chaos at the end of the book. There is no great coming to of consensus. There is no great, yes, Elphaba was evil. She's dead now, we can all rejoice. There is political turmoil, like almost a coup even, that's happening in Oz at the end of that first book. And mind you, this is all different from how the original Wizard of Oz ends, which just has Dorothy waking up, chilling. She's back, she's got her slippers, she's living her best life. So looking at these choices, it makes me wonder, what's in an ending for Wicked? Well, let's start first with this movie, and speculate a little bit about what choices it's making to end where it is, right? Now, what few early access reviews I have read for Wicked the movie talk about how Its 2 hour and 40-minute runtime, while daunting, does let a lot of the story's aspects breathe more, which I find interesting, right? Wicked is kind of a tale of two stories thematically, right? It is both these kids at college, kind of growing up, having discoveries about life, about politics, about who they want to be. It's messy, it's complicated, it's feels high school for it feels very like youthful for the most part. Things aren't quite that serious, asterisks, but there's still kind of a light air to things, right? Like in Act One, up until Defying Gravity, the biggest conflict in the story is like Alphabet and Galinda hate being roommates, right? And that's a much different vibe from when you get to Act Two, and it's political turmoil, Alphabet being labeled a terrorist. It's a whole different thing, right? So, if you're gonna be spending more 2 hours worth of time on that in the movie, right, you have the chance to really hammer home the disconnect between those two parts of the story, right? Wicked's always had this kind of dichotomy where part one is very lighthearted, part two then gets very serious, right? You get the Dr. Dilemma becoming a goat. You get the death of some characters, the torture of some characters. Nessa dies in part two. It makes sense to end there at Act One because it lets you focus in and cut off those fun themes, just like in the musical. But I think it's notable that we have a version of a story of Wicked that ends, right? Considering movie is a movie in itself, that ends with Elphaba still alive. That ends at her moment of greatest triumph, I should say. A lot of the stories of Wicked, the musical, the book, the movie, take Elphaba through her life and her death. She doesn't really get the triumph that she works towards. Even in the musical, when the musical ends, even though she has done so much and tried to fight for so many different things, in the end, the best thing that she can do is leave in disgrace as a kind of symbol of hatred and disgust. Like, she's happy, and I'm happy for her because she gets to live with her loved one, but she doesn't really get to lead the revolution that she really wanted to. She has to entrust it to Glinda. As she says, I am limited, but there's so much more that you could do. And that's not a very, what should I say? That's not a very hopeful ending for someone who was trying to lead a revolution against an unjust society. And look at the book, you get more of that political dissolution, more of that turmoil. But for one, Elphaba goes through a lot more turmoil in that book overall. Her family's dead in some parts. Fiero's dead. She has to kill people in the book. It's again, dark fucking book. And in the end, while there is more political unrest and there's more political upheaval, Elphaba just dies. She doesn't get the moment of triumph, moment of joy where she's able to ride off into the sunset and enjoy life with Fiero. She is just a puddle of green goo on the ground. For some reason, I'm still unclear as to how that works, but there. And then also in Wizard of Oz, it's a lot less ceremonial, but she still gets melted. So, Wicked, the movie, even with the part one, recognizing that, but even as a movie on its own, is one of the few stories where that ends where Elphaba is at this moment of, I can do it, I'm going off on my own, I'm going to make a difference with my own power, because I have to. And that's inspiring, right? I think most people would agree that Defying Gravity is the most inspiring song of Wicked, and this adaptation is making that the end point. You're leaving the theater with this feeling of defying gravity. And I would say that that's a very interesting adaptational choice to give Elphaba that victory, so to speak, that she doesn't often get. Despite the fact that the Wicked books, movie, and musical expand her character, show her as a complex political agent with beliefs and sympathies and empathies, and that's worthy of our respect and our consideration, she doesn't really get a lot of solid victories, right? So ending this movie at that moment, I think, is a kindness to her character. And I also think how should I say this? I think in a political environment where a lot of dissent is kind of overtly being discouraged and dissuaded, ending this movie at the character's high point being the need to revolt against an unjust society and the determination to do so, I think is a very timely message. Whether that's what's intentional or not, I cannot say, but I'm really glad that they chose to give Elphaba this kind of ending, if only until part 2 comes out. Right? Or just, talking about Elphaba in general, the Elphaba in the book, as I was mentioned earlier, has a very, very darker time. Not to go into the whole story, but as I mentioned before, lots more death, lots more murder, lots more torture. It's just a problem for everyone involved. In the musical, like it's been pretty obvious before, the people who made the story would really want to focus on the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda. So that political aspects of it are still there, but they're much less focused on. Like there's much less of, like in the book, you really sit and think about what is evil? Who is evil? Are people born evil? People born good, right? That is a central question to the book, and it really pushes your understanding of each answer. Whereas the movie asks that question and flirts with it, but I would argue it goes far less in depth with it. And so now we have a movie. You have a movie that is going to be 2.5 and 10 minutes long, that only focuses on the first part of Wicked's story, where they are in college, where things are still lighthearted. I imagine to do that, in part, is to really, and I mean really, focus in on that Elphaba-Glinda relationship and really spread it out. But I hope as well, in taking this chance, they have some time to reintroduce and refine some of those darker political elements from Gregory Maguire's original novel. Because those elements are there for a reason. They really inform Elphaba's character. They show why she is the way that she is, and even more, I think, painfully illustrate why Elphaba and Glinda's relationship could never quite be fully repaired and can never quite continue without something in the society breaking. I also think, too, this might probably later, but it is fascinating that in the politically darker story, Elphaba dies. It sucks. No one likes the Elphaba's dead. Not less so me. But there's political change. The political landscape of Oz changes and evolves, or is threatening to explode, I should say, at the end of that book. Whereas in the musical, the political landscape is going to change, but not because the ground is being torn out from the system, but because the system has a new leader. Because Glinda was able to change the system from the inside and become a new leader. And Elphaba, the radical revolutionary, is forced into hiding, advocating because she was not right for it, even though Elphaba is the one who has been fighting this fight for so long, like on her own in the musical. She's been, like in the book she joins the group, but in the musical she's really out here doing magic about trying to help the animals find equality, and much in to a degree. And to have just that version of that character abdicate the responsibility of leadership to Glinda for a personal happy ending, I think it's very interesting. I would honestly say I would accuse it of being a little bit of defanging the political nuance of it all. Of saying, hey, Elphaba in the musical, all of her revolutionary ideas, they were too far. She was never going to get what she wanted because she did too far and too much by herself, right? All that to say, Wicked, the movie, is out now, and this may be the only Wicked part of the story between the book, movie, and the movies. This may be the only part of the Wicked multiverse between the book, musical, and movies that is going to end at a point where Elphaba gets a win, so to speak. The intermission is so long, 1.5 years about, that we're going to be able to sit with time and kind of absorb Elphaba's win, I imagine, I hope at least. And I really respect that choice. I think whether or not it's intentional, I think it speaks a lot to the spirit that we are going to need to embody as different societies march forward where they're marching forward, so to speak. So I approve definitely of this adaptational choice, and I think I'm going to be more excited to go see Wicked, to see how they choose to end, to see how they choose to render this ending for Elphaba. But those are just my final thoughts. Maybe the movie will come out, and in fact, it'll just end a whole act earlier at Dancing Through Life. I don't know. I'm not psychic, but I am Jeremiah. You've been my lovely viewing audience. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff for more Final Thoughts videos and more Wicked analyses, so you can really see how the story all plays out between part 1 and part 2 with the new books and all that stuff going on. But I've been Jeremiah. You've been amazing. Thank you for watching.
Final Thoughts Podcast, brought to you by CrossfaderLA.com. Blending culture and creativity.